Hey Naomi, welcome to Get Gutsy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited to get to know you better today. Sometimes I'll have guests on and we have known each other from whatever, various paths and situations. And sometimes I have people on who I have never talked to before, like we really haven't interacted. And so you're in that camp, which is fun because I get to really get to know, well, who is this Naomi gal and what are you all about? So as we're, getting started, just let our listeners know, like, what do you do? What's your business? What are you excited about?
So, I am the founder of a company called The Lifestyle Edit, thelifestyleedit.com. And we are a platform all about kind of supporting women in creating businesses that allow them to lead the kind of lives that they want to. We're all about cultivating a life on your own terms. But just to give you a bit of background, I was a fashion editor in print for many years. And on paper, it was my dream job, and I got to a stage where I felt like, what's next? I was looking around and there was no jobs there was nobody's job that I wanted. And I wanted more. I wanted more. I've always felt very entrepreneurial, but when I was looking around, there just wasn't really the content that really resonated with me. It was very corporate. It was very masculine. And, I was really fortunate to interview so many incredible women, and it was always in relation to their products. And I'd walk away with hours upon hours of transcripts. And I was like, where is all of this kind of candid conversations? Like, I'm just not seeing it online. So I really wanted to create a place that spoke to those women who have had phenomenal careers, that really delved into, the moments of self-doubt and, those kind of crossroad moments and how they have navigated that over the course of their career. So that's really what inspired me to create The Lifestyle Edit. And also, as a journalist, I love storytelling. And I think what made digital so exciting to begin with was that it was so instant. You didn't have that long lead time that we had to deal with in print. But I think the flip side of that was that you started getting a lot of these kind of clickbaity content. And I really wanted to create something that was evergreen, whether you're reading it now or in a year's time, you can connect with it and felt relevant. So I run The Lifestyle Edit. So we run these long form features on female founders, and we're actually 3 years old. We just turned 3 years old next month.
Congrats.
The business has grown beyond my wildest expectations. We now have TLE Studio, which is our consulting company, where we work with small to medium-sized fashion and lifestyle brands on their digital strategy. I also work one-on-one with coaching with female founders, kind of supporting them in their business strategy. And we also do incredible events. We're about to launch our first online course. So anything that's related to women in business, we're all about.
I love that. I love that. And I totally identify I wanted more. I was similar to you. I started my career in New York, not as a journalist, although I was trained as a journalist in school, but I was on the other side. I was a public relations exec. So I was pitching the ideas to journalists. So I was in that whole realm and, the dream job and going to the events and the parties, and we had celebrity spokespeople. And my last gig, I was traveling around the world with the soccer star Pele for one of my clients. Right. Thinking I'm like, I made it, I've made it. And yet it wasn't enough. I'm like, this is it? Like, this is the thing? Because this is not really as awesome as I think it should be. Like for me to invest this much time, and I don't know, probably it was similar for you and I, like the pay was pretty low and you're giving so much of your life to this job. There wasn't much left over for other things. It was like the other areas of my life got scraps, and that wasn't going to be enough to create a holistic life.
Completely. I think, yeah, it was exactly the same with me. There were times in the summer where, even in the summer, I'd get to the office and it would be dark. and I would leave the office and it would be dark. And, you know, I'd have friends and, you know, I'd see, you know, on social media or whatever that, you know, they've had parties, they've had this, and they just stopped inviting me because I would always say no. And it wasn't always that I was working. When I wasn't working, I was recovering from working.
Yes.
And, you know, you get into this vicious circle of, you know, making plans with friends and then just like hoping that they're the one that cancels so that you're not the one that cancels again. And it got to a point where I felt like, what am I doing this for? It's just not worth it. But even when I made that transition and I left, I had to actually mourn that, because it was like, you know, I'd spent the decade prior, you know, building and kind of going up the ladder and, you know, really proving myself and trying to land those positions. I had to actually mourn walking away from it.
Oh yeah, I'm with you, girl. Because I don't know how it was for you, but in my case, it was, what do I even call myself anymore? You know, you work so hard to get these titles, and like, I'm in this industry and I work for XYZ company, and here's my clients and blah, blah, blah. And then you get to a point, you're like, what's my title? Like, what is my thing? It's like, I lost my identity. And with that, I was reading through your website, you know, you lose your benefits, you lose your, you know, you're this and you're that, and that every 2-week paycheck, which I came to realize was like a drug. I need that 2-week fix. Come on, give me that thing. Because, you know, someone else has got to give that to me. Once you become an entrepreneur, you realize you are responsible for that and you can do it, right? You can create your own income, your own wealth. But yes, I think that mourning period is important to talk about, because I know, you know, some of our listeners are in that now. You know, I know some of them are like, I know there's more than this, I got to get out. Or they're in those initial stages where they've left behind the thing that they thought they'd always do, and they realize they just can't. They couldn't do it. And so it's important that we feel these things. Otherwise, we're just going to push it down, and it turns into like, you know, workaholism or shopaholism or, you know, all that other stuff. We have to feel our feelings.
No, definitely. And I think there is this danger that you leave your job, you start your own business, and all of a sudden you have this kind of work-life balance and this fulfillment, and everything is, you know, amazing and great. And, you know, I think it's only in the last year really that I feel like I've started to have a lot more boundaries and, you know, in my business, because I think entrepreneurship attracts a certain personality. So the same personality that was leading me to burnout in my former life did the same thing when I first started my business. So it has been a real kind of growth process of being like, okay, yes, I'm really passionate about what it is that I'm doing, but I am the vehicle that keeps this business running. So I need to make sure that I'm taking care of myself and also building a life outside of my business. So when I do come to my business, I'm coming with energy and passion and enthusiasm, because there's nothing worse than having the Sunday scaries for your own business.
Right? Kind of like, why did I do this to myself? Like, I am my own boss, so I need to be a better boss. I need to be a better manager. So what are some of the boundaries that you've put in place so that you can refuel? You don't give from an empty cup. Just talk about that, because it's really important.
Yeah, so I've learned a lot about myself. So I am someone who, I'm on fire in the morning. So I get up really early. I probably get up at about 5 a.m. every day. And I do my most important work in the morning. My evenings are sacred. They're absolutely sacred. So by the time 5 o'clock hits, it's done. There's nothing, unless it's an emergency, which never really happens. There's nothing that can't wait until the next day. And I've started to really kind of foster this whole idea of, you know, self-care. So, you know, reading an amazing book that's not related to work in the evenings, you know, having a nice soak, like, you know, listening to a podcast that just makes me feel good, that's not related to work, or if it is, it's not in a kind of aggressive way. Before I go to bed reading like a hardcore strategic book and would wonder why I can't go to sleep. So I've really claimed back my evenings and my weekends, and also just being a lot more I think the first year in your business, it's all about saying yes. As your business starts to mature, it's about, you know, learning when it's appropriate to say no. So just being really protective of my time, and really safeguarding those concrete desk times so that I do have the freedom. I think in saying yes, sometimes you can be out a lot, having lots of meetings, and there's nobody running your business.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very much about like, what's the most important thing first, and then the distinguishing between the must-dos and the it would be nice to do, or it would be nice to attend. That's the only way that I've been able to start safeguarding my evenings and my weekends, which I really need.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Me too. Me too. And it does take, you have to go through, I think, a period of like trial and error to figure out how are you wired. There's some who they do their best work at night, like super late. And, I work with my clients on this, is just figure it out for yourself and run different experiments. I'm also big, especially this year now in 2018, is really looking at your cycles, like the lunar cycle, your menstrual cycle. As women, like the majority of listeners are women, this is important. I was horrible at this in the past. And now it's realizing like it's making everything so much harder if you ignore that. Like there are planets that are a lot bigger than we are that impact what goes on here on Earth. And when you really plug into that and just get smart and conscious, everything can flow easier and you have more fun.
Definitely. And I think it's also, it's a great time now at the start of the year when we're recording to really look at your whole year. I know now, 3 years into business, like I start to feel tired at this time. I need a boost of inspiration there, and just really planning out your year accordingly so that you don't have these kind of, bursts of energy and then completely falling off these bursts of energy. So making sure that you're scheduling in those breaks and taking all of those kind of things into consideration.
Totally. So I'm curious, you mentioned having these long form features on your site and really having conversations with founders and talking about self-doubt and fears that come up along the way. With your journalistic background, what common threads did you see around that, when it came to self-doubt or fear? Like how did these founders get through that? Because I know that is a major issue. Again, I work with clients. I lead a mastermind and I have several people who I'll just get a chance to really get to know throughout my programs. And self-doubt, I mean, that's the freaking killer. That is the killer. Our biggest obstacle is ourself. And so any words of wisdom or just things that you saw or heard as you were talking to all these wonderful founders about how they get through that?
I think the reassuring thing is that, every single one of them speaks really candidly about self-doubt being something that they grapple with, every day. But the common thread is that it's this mantra about feeling fear but doing it anyway. And I love Elizabeth Gilbert because she speaks a lot about that, and it's a thing that constantly comes up, that our ego will come and protect us when we're pushing outside of our comfort zone, but that's not a reason not to do it. And I think the more it's pushing through fear is like a muscle. The more you do it, the more confident you get in doing so, and you have that proven track record of, remember that moment when you were, afraid of taking that next step, you did it, and this was the result. So that is definitely the common thread. And I think that's what success is all about. It's always about pushing through and doing those firsts. No matter what stage you are in your business, you're constantly going to be experiencing that. So there's actually a great book that I read by Tara Moa, Playing Big, and she makes a distinction between two types of fear. So the fear of, oh my God, I'm going to mess up, it's going to be terrible. And that fear when you're kind of going into the unknown. And she says that as entrepreneurs or as anybody, navigating life, it's really important to distinguish between the two. And the majority of the time we feel fear in that second type of fear, when it's, we're pushing into a new space, we're pushing outside of our comfort zone. And as entrepreneurs, as businesswomen, it's our responsibility to move, head on towards those sorts of opportunities. That is it's in those moments that we have the real opportunities to grow and stretch ourselves.
Absolutely. I love how she broke that down. I have that book sitting on my bookshelf. So
Ah,
I have a goal for myself this year that I am reading at least 50 books in this year, which is, it feels aggressive when I say it. I'm like, oh, that's nothing. And I don't read on Kindle. Like, I need the physical books. Like, I like to hold them in my hands. Although I think this year I may try Audible. I may try Audible so I can listen to these books. Like, do you do that? Do you try?
I've thought about Audible. I've heard wonderful ththings about it. So you'll have to try it and tell me what you think.
I know. I keep hearing good things, and I'm like, okay. I think I need to kind of like let go of my book snobbiness or snobbishness. That's the word. Being like, well, it doesn't count as reading if my eyes aren't on the words. Like, no, it's okay. Like, because I'm just gonna get, oftentimes the books are even read by the authors, which I think would make it really special.
Exactly. And especially when you're used to listening to podcasts, it's just
Yeah.
like a natural progression.
Yeah. So that'll help me reach my goal for sure, especially if you've got, long car rides or what have you. So yeah, I'm really excited about this goal for 2018, and I'm finding myself like really focused, and I'm not as much, I went on sabbatical the last week of December and the first week in January off of social media, like
Nice.
totally off 2 weeks. And like my scheduled posts weren't going out. I used the scheduling software. I paused that. I was like, we're pausing. We're totally pausing. I've been in business for myself for 10 years. And so I'm like, we're going to pause. We're going to feel that. And it was glorious. It was so glorious. And I come back, even though I'm back on social media, like that experiment has got inside of me. And now I'm much more like turning to the book, and I'm just not scrolling mindlessly. I don't have the space for that any longer.
Oh my God, you're so right. I've been thinking about this a lot because I've kind of taken a back step on Instagram a lot 2017 just to recalibrate, because I think it's so important. There is this temptation to constantly consume other people's ideas, other people's projects, and I'm really forcing myself to create before I consume.
Yes.
Because I think it's really important for us to have that space to think of ideas. And I want to be looking at my community for feedback. I want to be making sure that I'm constantly serving them, rather than going into this vicious circle of, oh my God, should we be doing this? And why haven't we thought of that? Because, I'm seeing it on my Instagram feed. I want to be, sometimes I think it's more effective to go internal. And and when I say internal, I mean, the people around you, your community, and the people that you're servicing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that as both, internal, your people, and then within yourself, your intuition, that guidance, that thing that has never led you astray. But that's the danger, I believe, of just all this content in our face. It's great. We have like kind of every answer at our fingertips, yet the answer that you're really seeking, it's inside of you. It's inside of you. And if you feel called to like, I want to do a survey with my audience, or I want to hop on the phone with some of my, best customers and like really listen to them, then that's what you should do. And don't, get so, I find sometimes on social, it's like we do the compare and despair thing. Like, oh my, look at that. They just came back from a vacation. They just hit blah, blah, blah in their business. Oh my God, all these things happen. And so I want our listeners to like really be mindful about what you're doing with your time. And what you said, I've heard that before and I love it. Create before you consume. Create before you consume, because that's your magic that you're here to contribute to the world.
And also, I think if you are spending a lot of time, on social media, you need to ask yourself, like, how is that serving the greater purpose of your business?
Yes.
And what are the metrics that really count? So for us, our email list is so engaged. I can see from the numbers that when we're really putting that time and that investment in our email list, it really has an effect on our bottom line. So especially when you're a lean, small team, it's important for you to be tracking those metrics and seeing what really impacts your bottom line. Because as much as social media is fantastic, you don't own your followers. Mark Zuckerberg does. So if Instagram was to disappear tomorrow, how would you be engaging with your community? You don't.
Totally.
So I think sometimes, rather than feeling like you need to be on all of these different platforms and feeling really stressed out that you need to keep on top of it, take time to step back and look at what platforms and what strategies are really kind of feeding your bottom line.
Yes, absolutely. What email provider do you use? Like what CRM tool?
So we've just converted to ConvertKit.
What were you on before?
MailChimp.
Okay, yes. I like to ask this because I've converted a few times and I'm kind of thinking about, do I want to make another switch? Because I don't know, I'm seeing some things, I'm feeling some things. So you went to ConvertKit. Why'd you choose ConvertKit?
Because I feel like MailChimp is really great in the beginning if you don't have a lot of experience with email marketing. But as your business starts to scale and you want to have more sophisticated automations that you can kind of put that upfront work and set and allow it to kind of run itself, MailChimp just doesn't allow you to do that. So I love the tagging functions in ConvertKit, the visual automations. It's just a lot more sophisticated. And you know, I always say, one of the things I often get asked is like, when do I know when's the time to bring on another team member? And I think what's so fantastic now with all of the software and the services out there is that so many jobs in our businesses can be automated. And, you know, ConvertKit is making, you know, that possible with all of the automations that they have. So I think it's fantastic.
You love it. Did you consider other options as you were making the switch?
I actually didn't. It shows you how many podcasts I listen to, because I had just heard so many amazing recommendations with ConvertKit, and I just started playing around with it. And it just made sense.
Cool.
So what have you used? And what have you
I
found?
started with Constant Contact. I'm like, what was the thing? Yeah, this was back in my first email list was started in 2009, and it was Constant Contact. I was with them for a few years. Then I needed like a shopping cart, and back then when I was making the switch, my coach at the time and like a lot of players were using one shopping cart. So I started using one shopping cart, which I believe they're still on the scene, but no one really talks about them anymore. This is before, there weren't a lot of players back then. And so it was one shopping cart. And then it seemed like there was this mass exodus to Infusionsoft. And so I signed up for Infusionsoft many, many years ago. I'm glad that I made the switch. It was a big learning curve. But, you know, because there's just so many more options on the scene now, and what I've seen is that no platform is perfect. Like there are shortcomings of various, you know, of the different tools. I'm just really looking at, you know, where's the next stretch taking us? Like, where are we going? My business now looks very different than how it looked, you know, several years ago. My life looks different, and my whole thing now is, my word for this year is integration. And so I'm looking at like, yeah, it's good. I'm like really excited. I'm like, oh yeah. And so it's just looking at not only, you know, I think in my land and a lot of people that I work with is not just like my business, but my life. Like I used to keep everything so separate. It's like the work is over here and then this is over here and it can't touch because it's got to just stay separate. It doesn't work like that. Not in my life. And so, yeah, it's just all those pieces of the puzzle getting locked down and saying, okay, if we're going to make a switch, what switch do we want to make? So I was just curious for you know, why you did it, and you sounds like you're loving it.
Loving it.
Nice. And so what are the big projects that you're excited about for this year?
Oh, wow. We have so much in store. I did a survey last year, and one of the biggest takeaways was that, you know, people really loved the actionable advice that we give in our interviews and in our podcast, but they really wanted to be able to take some of those trainings further. So this year we're really focusing on in real life workshops. So we have our first one in London, and that's all about how to create an integrated PR, marketing and partnership strategy that converts. And we just have so many amazing workshops lined up. We really want to make sure that we're servicing our community where they're at and bringing in top experts that can really help them in, you know, taking their businesses to the next level. Because I think one of the challenges, especially with creative entrepreneurs, is that we're so fantastic with the product or service, but what you realize when you start a business is that that's actually 20% of the business. then you actually have to figure out how to make it a viable business.
Yeah.
So I really want to support our community in getting that component down. So that's where our workshops come in. 2 years ago, we started a supper club series, really informally in New York, because I was just meeting so many incredible women. And I'm just like, how do you guys not know each other? So it started off really informally, and it's just grown. So we are doing supper clubs in New York, London, and in various states across the US. So I'm really excited about that. There's something so phenomenal about getting a group of like-minded women in the same room. Because I think for many of us, or for me at least, when I started, I didn't know many people in the entrepreneurship space. And I think for many, that's what makes it so scary. You look around, your friends, your peers, and they're all in the corporate track. And it was only once I'd started the business and started meeting more like-minded people that, there's a sense of camaraderie. So if we can facilitate more people having that experiences and really finding their tribe, then I'm thrilled to do that. Yeah. So we have our supper club, we have online courses is a really big focus for us too, because like you, I work one-on-one in coaching. And of course it's difficult because I would love to work with more people, but it's time is the limitation. So it's going to be really exciting to be able to offer some of, the trainings that I work with my one-on-one coaching clients with through online courses.
Love that. Yes, that is hot. It's cool to see the evolution of your business, and always nice to just plug in and say, yeah, what are you excited about? For our listeners who want to offer a survey, how did you do that survey? Did you just did you use a certain survey tool? How did you facilitate that survey to your tribe last year?
I use Typeform. So I know many people use like SurveyMonkey and things like that, but we use Typeform a lot in our business. It's just really, really easy to use. And for forms like that, it's free. So I would definitely recommend it. And it's really intuitive. You can put your own branding. It's great. And
did you offer an incentive to your audience to fill out the survey, or is it just like, hey, help us out? And how did you do that?
What did I do? I think I did like a half an hour strategy session with me for the first 5 people who signed up. I think that's what I did. But people, I'm really fortunate that our audience is so engaged, because I'm like, the more information you give us, the better the content we're creating.
Totally.
So we're really fortunate that our audience is so engaged.
Good. Yes. Love it. And I dig into these details because I think it's important. Sometimes people will hear stuff and like, and then what do I do? And then what's that next step? And so I'm always like, okay, let's take it further. So somebody can listen to this and go, I'm going to create a survey on Typeform and send it out to people. And, maybe I'm going to do the first 5 who fill it out are going to get a strategy call with me or whatever. So this show, I want it to be where you listen, you get inspired. And it's not just like, oh, that made me feel good, but then you're going to do something, because nothing changes until you take action.
I'm so happy you said that, because that's one of the key things that we try and do with all of our content. Now we have pretty much covered a lot of the professions and types of businesses in the creative space, and we're really lucky that we get lots of incoming inquiries of women that run businesses. But I'm really adamant that it's not just a place for inspiration. I think there are lots of platforms that do that really well, especially now with there being such a fantastic focus on women and women in leadership and female entrepreneurs. But what I'm really focused on is I want to give you the how. So it's not good enough to be like, this woman is doing really amazing. I think, sometimes it can make these people feel so far from where you are. So I'm all about breaking down those action steps and, breaking down the how. So no, I'm completely with you.
Boom. Love it. Okay. So where can people find you? Where do you want to lead them, Naomi?
Yes, well, come on over. We're at thelifestyleedit.com. You can find us on Instagram at thelifestyleedit, and come and check out our podcast. It's just the Lifestyle Edit podcast. You can find us on iTunes and SoundCloud, and a lot of the action, like I said, happens on our email list. We send the best way to keep up to date with all of our supper clubs, our events, everything that we're doing. So make sure to go to thelifestyleedit.com and sign up.
Nice. Okay, y'all, you know where to find Naomi. And you can also go to jennyfennig.com, type in Naomi in the search bar, and this episode will come up, and you'll see all those links there. All right, girls, so this is the time that I get to ask our finale question. I've been asking this question because we're almost at 200 episodes of Get Gutsy. They are not all interviews. I've done several solos through this more than 2-year journey now of podcasting. And, but every guest I've had on, I've asked this question. So it's always interesting to hear the answer. What is the gutsiest move you've ever made, and how does it inspire your life and work today?
Okay, I'm going to be really naughty and I'm going to give you 2.
Okay.
So the first one was, of course, leaving my job and starting the business. Mm-hmm. I think in 2018, there's no reason why anybody who wants to start a business cannot start a business. But mm-hmm. I think even in the 3 years since I started, you know, there's so much more visibility in entrepreneurship, and where, you know, there's this big cultural dialogue about, you know, cultivating a life on your own terms. You know, we're hearing stories all the time about the rise of the gig economy. It wasn't the case when I started. So it still felt very, very scary. And, you know, print was king and online was still didn't have the respect that print had. So for many people around me, when I said that I'm leaving a respected national newspaper to start an online publication, it was just, you know, it was crazy. But it's been the most rewarding thing I've ever done. You know, I am constantly learning and pushing myself, you know, beyond what I ever thought was possible. So that was really amazing. And then I born and raised in London, but 2 years ago, I made the move and really started investing in our business in the US. And I'd always traveled for work, for projects, for Fashion Week, but had never really spent considerable periods of time. And in London, it was London generally, as much as I love it and it's home, it's always, you know, a few years behind the US. So they understood online from the kind of beauty and fashion influencer space, but not in the type of content that I was trying to create. You know, I never created my business for it to be about me. It was always about putting a spotlight on these women's careers and businesses. So taking the leap to the US made sense. In the US, you understand about long form journalism and storytelling and independently run websites. So it was incredibly daunting to kind of pack up and leave everything that I knew in London and kind of start afresh and have to build my network. But again, one of the most rewarding experiences that I've ever had. And like I said before, every time you push yourself out of those comfort zones, it gives you that confidence the next time when you have a moment like that. So having done that, I know that, you know, I could do that again and again.
Absolutely. Like that's almost the reason why you do it. It's almost the thing that you do is the detail. It's just, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to make that move and know that you'll figure it out? And, you know, for some reason you didn't like New York, like, all right, forget it. I'll go to LA, or I'll do a different thing. Or London's not going anywhere. You can go back.
Exactly. And I guess it's embracing, you know, moving your focus and embracing the journey. And, you know, not everything has to be perfect right out of the gate. And, you know, learning how to iterate, and embrace the process.
Yes, embrace the process. Exactly. That's wise words, Naomi. It's been awesome to have you on this show. I know everyone has gotten at least one gem to take with them and implement. All of you listeners, go take action. What move are you going to make today? And I think the big nugget that I received, because all of my guests have messages for me too, create before you consume. Create before you consume. That's just really gotten to my heart. So thank you so much for being here, Naomi.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. And all you listeners out there, we got so much more for you. Come back every week. We got you covered. I am sending you so much love, light, and faith as you get gutsy. I will see you next time.